I won't. So I have a, yes. Should I start now? Yes. A pointer, a laser, something so I can click the slides. Oh, okay. Um, you know, I'm a little bit of a control freak. Just a little bit. Because I might want to focus on the slide a little bit longer. Thank you so much. All right, it's 6:30, and without much ado, I'm going to get started. I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint here. So, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm hoping in the future that this will be played, I want to personally share this with some people that I know who are vaccine hesitant or vaccine adverse. My goal is to shed some light on a topic that is very sensitive to many, especially in this present time. Today is October 22nd, 2025. We are approximately 2.5 years post-pandemic, post-COVID-19 pandemic, which started in 2020. And around that time, people, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but since COVID, it has become a very difficult conversation to talk about vaccines. So let me just bow and pray in preparation for the spiritual warfare that I know will come about as a result of this conversation. All right, so let's bow. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much, Lord Jesus, for being the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. Lord, you are the ultimate creator. There is no God that comes before you. Lord, you are all-knowing, omnipresent, and omnipotent. And Lord, there is nothing in me that is worthwhile. But Lord, I beseech you today that you empty me of myself and fill me with your spirit. Fill me, Lord, with your words, with your knowledge, and Lord, help me to move not in my spirit, but in the power that exists in Christ Jesus, the resurrection power. Lord, I pray for those who are listening. I pray for those who will listen at a later date and time. I pray for those who would benefit from this information. Lord, I pray that truth will ring true and that the enemy and all of his deception be bound in the name of Jesus, and that your people who perish for a lack of knowledge will be enlightened. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity. Please hear my prayer and forgive me my sins. In Christ's sake I pray, amen. Amen. Got it. So let's talk about and vaccine misconceptions. I thought very hard about how I should title this. And first and foremost, let me say this. I thank Pastor Bell for allowing me to have this opportunity to share this with you. I thank him and Sister Bell so much for trusting me with this topic and with our church members. You guys are my family. I've been here as a member for over 30 years. My life changed drastically under this ministry, where it led me from being a nursing professional to a doctor of nursing practice, learning to be all that the Lord has purposed me to be. I don't take my journey lightly. I don't take this opportunity lightly. And my prayer is that even after this conversation, if there's questions or concerns, I'll be happy to answer them. I'll be happy to have that discourse, which may be uncomfortable. My goal is to, like a dark room, turn on a small light. If I lift up my phone in the middle of my bedroom when it's dark, it lights up the bedroom. I pray that the words that I talk to you about today will turn on a light in some darkness and dispel some ignorance. I want to dispel some myths. I want you to dismiss some misconceptions. I need you to walk away with the truth. There's a lot of lies out here. So let's look at our agenda. I need to go over some historical justification for why we have some distrust. I would like to talk about how vaccines work. I want to dispel the misconceptions and share facts with you. Science and mathematics are those genres which will ring true each and every time. 1 + 1 will always equal 2. I don't care how you twist it, dress it up, it's always going to equal 1 + 1 = 2. Science, when you take a scientific experiment, what makes it science is that you can reproduce the same outcome each and every time. So we have a world now where we have everybody who can talk has a platform, and they're going to say something, and they're going to be loud, and it sounds cute, and they're going to dress it up. And anybody who has access to a phone or the internet can say something, but it doesn't mean it's true. So we're battling, quite frankly, a lot of foolishness. In preparation for me doing this, I went to 2 Timothy. And in 1st and 2 Timothy. And when you read the scriptures in those books, it talks about people wanting to hear what their itching ears want to hear. And Timothy was warned by Paul to speak the truth in season and out of season. So we need to embrace the truth in season and out of season. I don't care what it looks like on the internet. I don't care who you listen to. I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm hold me down, Deke. Because I'm about to take my coat off and pull my hair back. Let's talk about what vaccines we need and why, and then I'm going to address some questions and concerns, okay? So here we go with the distrust. I'm going to take it all the way back to Tuskegee. Tuskegee. Can we talk, y'all? Please. Vaccine distrust, medication distrust, healthcare distrust in certain communities is absolutely positively justified. And I would be amiss if I do not acknowledge that. Tuskegee wasn't about science or certain entities giving black folks syphilis. No. Tuskegee was them knowing that they had syphilis and allowing it to go untreated just so they could see what would happen. Let me see what happens when syphilis goes so far and you don't treat it. They knew that penicillin would treat it and cure it. They went so far as to use black faces within the black community, a black nurse, to draw people in. She didn't know what was happening. She didn't know all of the nefarious issues that were afoot. But they used her. Deception, evil. And we've never forgotten that. And I dare say that we better not ever forget that. Amen. But that same distrust hinders us. Another example. This took place right here. That QR code, if you pull it up and scan that, it's going to take you to a newspaper article during the beginnings of COVID. This prison, I believe in Arkansas, was using ivermectin. It is a medicine that is given to animals, cows, typically horses, to deworm them. They were using that as an experiment on these colored prisoners, African American prisoners, to see if they could cure COVID. Exactly. And since then, there have been some entities to this day who insist on taking ivermectin and some other medications which are not approved to treat COVID, and would rather take that than the COVID vaccine. Why? It's because they understood what ivermectin was for. Maybe it'll help here. But just because you don't understand how science has developed something, and I'm going to push this point over and over again, just because you don't understand how science has developed something doesn't mean that you automatically should push it away. I get it. The distrust is there. It is warranted. We've seen all types of atrocities that have been impacted on multiple populations. But in ours in particular, if I say to some of my patients, "Are you getting your flu vaccine today?" "Oh no, not that." So let's unpack that. I need you to put a pin in that. I'm going to come back to that. I don't want to spend too much time on distrust. I think you understand distrust, but I want to get to what we need and why. Let's first look at how vaccines work. We're going to play a little video.
When a pathogen, a virus or a bacterium is introduced into the body, it multiplies and attacks cells. This is known as an infection. Recognizing this microbe as a foreign body, the immune system deploys two defense strategies using various types of white blood cells. First of all is the innate immune response. Macrophages are at the heart of this. These killer cells swallow up intruders, whatever they are, to destroy them. Phagocytes capture and eliminate toxins. This rapid and localized reaction can stop or slow down the infection. But that's not always enough, and that's where lymphocytes come in. They're defender cells which can identify the invader thanks to its characteristic molecule, the antigen. Each lymphocyte is adapted to attack a particular virus or bacteria. As soon as it identifies the antigen, the lymphocyte multiplies. B lymphocytes have the capacity to produce vast numbers of antibodies. Circulating around the body, antibodies latch onto these antigens and neutralize them, allowing macrophage to eliminate them. T lymphocytes identify and destroy infected cells. The problem is that on first contact with an antigen, the immune reaction is slow, taking several days, giving germs time to unleash an illness. Fortunately, the body remembers its enemies. Following an infection, antibodies and lymphocytes are left with a memory. They therefore react if the same pathogen reappears. The immune reaction is much faster and the body eliminates the attacker before the illness develops. Vaccines work by exploiting the immune system's memory. Vaccination simulates an infection, training the immune system and enabling it to develop weapons to fight back. This is done by introducing a germ which is dead or inactive, or just a fragment of the germ, into the body. The vaccine triggers an immune reaction without causing the illness. The organism produces lymphocytes which memorize the invader and antibodies in preparation for any future attack. The power of these antibodies and lymphocytes tends to diminish over time, which means top-up vaccinations are sometimes necessary.
Awesome. I wanted to find something that I thought was a really good overview without being too sciencey, and give you a quick understanding of how your body functions. The Lord really created us in an amazing way. And that's just one thing that's happening as we sit here and breathe. We are a very intricate system. And so let me break that down a little bit more. There were some things that were said that were very key in that video. And this is, I give my kids the hand puppet, not just my kids, but my patients, the hand puppet version of what happens whenever you encounter a virus or bacteria and your body's trying to fight it. So here's your body on guard, your white blood cells, T cells, whatever your immune system's doing. Hey, I'm protecting you, it's standing guard. And then along comes a visitor. Hey, excuse you, what's the password? I'm cute. No, you're not that cute. I'm coming here for a visit. No, you can't. Why can't I? Because you don't belong here. Well, I'm going to hang out. No, you're not. You can't make me. Okay, watch me. Macrophage cell attacking the enemy. You saw how that video kind of absorbed that's what happens. And when this happens and it actually attacks that invader and it goes away, the body now says, you know what? More of them may come, 5-0, and they're going to call for more to come so that it'll be on guard in case that foreigner comes back. That makes sense? So what happens when you get a vaccine? It will simulate what the attacker could be. There have been some vaccines that were used to, that would give you dead virus, okay? There are very few live virus vaccines anymore. Most of them are dead or simulated. So we're not injecting you with COVID. You're not getting injected with measles, mumps, rubella. You're not going to get sick from the whatever it is we're trying to protect you from based on us giving you that. That's not how science works. That's how it used to work when smallpox was developed, the smallpox vaccine. I digress. Let me get back to this story. So that being the case, your body is now protecting you by building more of the cells that will fight against whatever it is it needs to protect you from. So when it sees it again, it's automatic. You may feel unwell when you first get that vaccine. You may get a little headache. You may have a little fever. You're going to be sore at the site of the injection. That's a good thing because it means that the vaccine is doing its job. How many people here are parents? Did you take your kids to get vaccinated? And did the pediatrician tell you the baby's going to have a little fever, they're going to be sleepy, they're going to be cranky for a day or two? Give them some Tylenol or some ibuprofen and they'll be fine. That's exactly why. We anticipate you not feeling well. So when patients say to me, I'm not going to take that flu vaccine because it's going to make me sick, that's like whisper down the lane on steroids. It's an untruth. You're going to feel slightly unwell, yeah. But when you compare feeling unwell from a vaccine versus having the flu, they're not to be compared. All right? I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself.
When a pathogen, a virus or a bacterium is introduced into the body, it multiplies and
of that, so we can stop that. So here's some myths about the flu vaccine. And who's watching my time? So I don't want to go above and beyond. Myths about common vaccines. They put the flu in the flu vaccine. COVID is an experiment targeted at my community. There are harmful ingredients in the vaccine. Vaccines cause autism and sudden death syndrome. It's better to have herd immunity or natural immunity. I'm not around anyone. I'm going to go in my house and put my mask on. I'll never come out, so I won't get COVID. So you think. Or I won't get the flu because I'm just going to be a hermit for the next 3 years. Some people did that. They make money off of vaccines. If they want to get to our community, they don't have to put anything in COVID. The line at certain fried chicken places are too long.
Amen.
Amen. We're going to talk about some of the ingredients in the vaccines and what that really means. Herd immunity is a thing and natural immunity is a thing, but we never question the science and technology that allows me to have a phone that I keep in my pocket that I can talk to and ask questions and it will answer me back versus that phone that was on the wall when I grew up. with a rotary dial and a line that maybe if I had the long extension cord, I could take the phone up to my room and whisper and hope my mother didn't pick it up and hear me talking. We don't question that technology, but it's the same science and technology that has advanced science to give you safe health care. How about this? How about you stop letting your kids play games on the phone unless it's something that's related to science, technology, engineering, and math. Stop letting them want to grow up just to be, I don't know, background singers, background dancers. I'm not knocking that. I like good entertainment. But if you can teach our community to have a seat at the table and understand science and technology, maybe I won't have to work so hard to make us not be help us not be afraid to get a vaccine. We need a seat at the table. The problem is we don't understand it, and we fear what we don't understand. Make your kids do your homework. Make them learn. For God's sake, teach them something other than foolishness. I'm getting upset again. Deacon, I told you were supposed to help me out. And so maybe then we can dispel some of these vaccines. Let's talk about influenza first and foremost. Okay, influenza. If you haven't noticed, I've set things up where the misconception is on one side and then the facts are on the other, right? Here's some misconceptions about flu. The flu won't kill me, it's just a bad cold. And these aren't meant to be exhaustive. These are just some of the things I've heard over the years, some of the things I've heard today. I've had to arm wrestle folk today over this. They put flu in the flu vaccine. Flu vaccine made me sick, which we already talked about. I'm not getting any flu while I'm pregnant, it hurt my baby. So, from a historical point of view, and I can't put enough emphasis on the importance of history when it talks about vaccines and healthcare. We forget about the first pandemic that we experienced in this country. It was the H1N1 flu pandemic between 1918 and 1920. 550,000 people in the US that they estimate, and other estimates are higher. Over 20 million people died worldwide from the flu. So fast forward 2019, 2020, more people died from the flu. But it estimates that the flu vaccine prevented 7 million deaths and illnesses, 3 million doctor visits, 100,000 hospital stays, 7,000 deaths. Pregnant women who get the flu while they're pregnant could go into preterm labor. Premature births really compromise the overall health of children. I don't have time to talk about what a premature birth does to a child, but number one, their lungs don't develop, their kidneys don't develop, they may have asthma and breathing problems as they get older, they may have renal disease and high blood pressure. But the safety of vaccines prevents that. So, I put some links there. So if you follow some of those links and you want more information, you'll have it at your disposal. I don't have to make any of these things up because 1 + 1 always equals 2. And science is science. The world is not flat. Let's talk about measles, mumps, and rubella. I'm going to kind of zip through some of these, and if I have time, I will circle back. Okay? Measles, mumps, or rubella. The MMRV means measles, mumps, rubella, varicella. Varicella is chickenpox. How many in this room have had chickenpox? And I dare say the ones in this room who've had chickenpox are probably over the age of 50. But when's the last time you've seen a kid run around here with chickenpox? You haven't seen it. You haven't seen it probably in the last 25 years. You know why? Because vaccines have prevented children from getting childhood diseases that we've all seen before. I could have asked my grandmother or my grandparents about polio. That was a thing for them. We don't see polio anymore. Vaccines, y'all. Science, technology. I was reading something about I'll get ahead of that. I'll talk about that later. So measles, mumps, and rubella. Here's why this one's really important. And I want to play this video because this chick is dangerous. It's highly infectious. Measles is so bad that if there were 10 people in a room and one person, and they've never been vaccinated for measles, they've never had it, and one person walks in a room with measles, 9 out of the 10 are going to get the measles. If they cough or sneeze, those measles microbes are going to live in the air for over 2 hours. That's why when there's a measles outbreak, and they said there was a measles outbreak and the person was at the Philadelphia International Airport, they're like, oh my God. Because it could be anywhere. People getting on a plane who've now been exposed to it, they're carrying it and they're taking it on the plane, and those people are dispersed all over the world. That's why it's so problematic. Because there's severe complications from the measles that can cause encephalopathy, cardiac diseases, respiratory diseases, pneumonia, and die. You can die from this. So when we hear information like, give them massive doses of vitamin D, how about you stay in your lane as a lawyer and let the doctors do the doctoring? Let the healthcare workers do the healthcare working. I'm going to play this video. This is a woman who calls herself a whistleblower, who says that she witnessed seeing children die after getting these combo vaccines for measles, mumps, rubella, and then have seizures. They had to put them down like dogs. I want you to watch her body language, and let's talk about that after the video plays. It's not. Are you kidding me? Oh. I thought I put that link in there. I click on her picture. It's not working. All right, let me talk about that. Maybe they can find it. If you can find that, I'll circle back to it because it's valuable. I'll tell you all about it. So this woman claims to be from the Children's Health Defense Network. And she claims that she is a data coder for, I guess, a hospital. And she said that she witnessed seeing children get vaccines for measles, mumps, rubella, and then they immediately started to seize one after the other. And then they had to put them down like dogs and die. And that the media never heard about it. And I've never seen anybody suffer so badly as these children suffered, and someone needs to do something about this. The Children's Health Defense Network is funded by people who are anti-vaxxers. I'm really trying to not speak very politically because I don't know how this could affect us even as a church. Because right now this is a very political environment that we're in. And speaking against those who are speaking untruth, there's been retribution. But all I can say is she calls herself, I think, Zoe. Go look at that link at yourself. As she's talking, she's sitting there holding herself like this. Her eyes are blinking repeatedly. And as she's recalling this story, she's looking up to the right. Oh, yeah. Her eyes repeatedly, is it the right or left? Let me just see. It's my left, her right. She's looking to the right. When you look at neuroscience and neural behavior, people who do that are lying. Attorneys learn this when they interview people on the witness stand. If they're looking off to that direction, they're lying. If they're looking off to the left, they're trying to recall information. So if they're looking left, they're thinking, okay, they're trying to remember. But if they're looking to the right, they are doing creative writing in their minds and speaking lies. Watch this woman's video when you get a chance because she is classic. People will get on the internet and say anything because they want to have likes. They want people to, if they have one experience, it becomes hyperbola because they want the attention. Now, what we do know is that the combination vaccine, measles, mumps, rubella, has caused febrile seizures. That's not untrue. However, what is untrue, it is extremely rare. Extremely rare. They've known that since 2006. So what she's saying is not new, but what she's saying is hyperbola. And when you mix a little bit of truth, it's a lie. She's lying. Yeah. Okay, let's go to hepatitis B as in boy. Misconceptions and facts. Some of the most recent concerns about the hepatitis B vaccine in these circles where there's anti-vax conversation is that there's aluminum in it that causes massive and severe allergies that are lifelong. One of our major politicians right now is going around saying that their son has had major allergies since they were 2 and they were in the hospital 22 times, and so he got together with another major donor. He didn't say that in this video that he got together with this other major political donor, but what they basically did was find scientists who were immunologists to deal with allergies, hired them, brought them here, built a lab for them and said, find me the reason for an allergy. And basically when you're hiring them and having them do this, you're not going to tell your rich boss with this political power no that this is not the reason for an allergy when they've concluded it before they hired you. This is what we know about aluminum. Aluminum has been used in vaccines to boost the immune response. It's what we call an adjuvant. It will enhance your body's response. Remember when we saw in the video that when the vaccine was introduced, the body's immune system saw it, and then after it attacked it, it had other antibodies build up so they can fight against the antigen, the germ. So when you add aluminum to the vaccine, even more antibodies will be built and respond, and you'll have greater protection on a sooner level. That's why they use it. But here's the rub. It's a minuscule amount of aluminum, right? It's excreted from the babies if they're getting a vaccine at birth for hepatitis B within hours. Most of it's excreted in the urine and in the feces. It's not going to be accumulative in your body. In over a month's time, it's all gone. We get more aluminum in our environment when we eat, what we breathe, what we touch. We're ingesting more than what's used in these vaccines. So the hyperbola behind this is just really not warranted. But the reason behind hepatitis B being very important in children getting it within hours of birth, hepatitis B as in boy is 100 times more infectious than HIV. It is generally transmitted from mother to child. Hepatitis B is endemic in Africa, Asia, South America, Eastern Europe, Australia. There is no cure for hepatitis B. And if a mother has a positive core for hepatitis B, it's already in her DNA, and she could pass that on to a child. The reason why we see it in these other countries is because there's no vaccine for the parents to give to their babies before they pass it on. And you can live with it for 30, 40 years, but eventually one day you're going to wake up, your belly's swollen, your eyes are yellow, you're itchy, your feet or ankles are swollen, you don't feel well, you breathe, you get cirrhosis, you get hepatocellular carcinoma, liver cancer, and you die. That's why the Hep B vaccine is extremely important. And we know that we didn't start giving the hepatitis B vaccine to the children in this country until somewhere around 1982. So that means that there's a whole generation of adults who've never been immunized against hepatitis B as in boy. I dare say many of you in this room have never been vaccinated for it. And if you go to the nail salon and they don't clean that equipment and they use it on somebody who has it and they use it on you, if you get a needle stick in the hospital as a healthcare worker, if you get a tattoo at a tattoo party and that somebody has it and they use it on you, if you go to somewhere to get a dental treatment or colonoscopy, these things have been in the news. That's how hepatitis B has been transmitted, outside of it being sexually transmitted. So it is a very important vaccine for us to get. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about COVID, some of the misconceptions. Taking the vaccine made my loved one die. This one is a very emotional one because I've heard many, many people who say to me, you know, my mother just wasn't right after she got that vaccine for COVID. Getting the COVID vaccine made me get COVID. It wasn't tested long enough. mRNA technology is too new and it's dangerous. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 killed 2.5 million people worldwide. 2.5 million people died from COVID. And that is probably underestimated because some countries just didn't have the capacity to count, and COVID actually hit before it was actually announced. I personally was on a cruise ship for 10 days in December in 2019. Came to church on the 23rd, sitting here, and all of a sudden I felt like something hit me on the head. Bang! A few days later, cough, chills, fevers, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, couldn't breathe, sick for 3 weeks. That was in January 2020. And what did they do in March of 2020? Shut the country down. I was on a cruise ship where all the COVID was being seen, right? So that's probably an underestimate. COVID is an inflammatory disease which causes, in and of itself, you don't have to get the vaccine to develop these inflammatory cardiovascular repercussions from it. COVID will cause increased risk for clotting. It will cause increased risk for heart attack and stroke. It can cause increased risk for heart failure, renal disease. And that's why people who suffered from obesity, high blood pressure, diabetes, now you put COVID on top of that. It's the straw that breaks the camel's back, and we saw a lot of death in our communities because of COVID. So some circles are saying don't give it to your children because it's going to cause heart disease. There have been some known cases of what we call Kawasaki's disease in pediatric patients. We've seen it in some teenage boys. Typically, the teenage boys would get it. Usually, if they rest for a day or two, it resolves. Again, rare. You can't let the hyperbola of the circumstance cloud the facts. 2.5 million people died from that. The risk versus the benefit always has to be examined in an emergency situation. COVID was an emergency situation. The mRNA technology existed over 25 years prior. It was not new technology. It was technology that they started looking at in the middle of an emergency, in the middle of a pandemic, to say, what do we have in our toolbox that can help us during this emergent worldwide pandemic that we have not seen since 1918 and 1920 when people died from the flu. So they used this technology to introduce something that looked like the spike that was very unique. A coronavirus is basically a cold virus. So the spike had a very unique appearance. So they needed to have something that when it was introduced, the body could say, okay, that's a problem, attack it, and then build antibodies. So it's not new technology. That's another lie. Did some people die from the COVID vaccine? Let's identify which ones died. The use of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine caused 9 deaths in primarily women of childbearing age, usually between the ages of 30 and 39. So let's examine the difference between the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is no longer on the market. The moment they found out that these women were dying, they took it off the market. It has not been available since 2021. Those women had clotting issues, caused thrombocytopenia. I know I'm talking some other language, and then they died. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine, along with I think Novavax, and there's another one, they are what's called viral vector vaccines. The technology developed to use the Johnson & Johnson and those other one-time single-shot vaccines is not the same technology that's used in Moderna and Pfizer. Moderna and Pfizer are the only mRNA vaccines. I can circle back and answer questions. I want to get through a few more, okay? Let's talk about some ingredients that are in vaccines. Some of the vaccine ingredients, thimerosal, they're saying, oh, they're putting mercury in the vaccines, and mercury make you mad as a hatter and kill you. Now let's talk about what mercury is in the vaccines. Thimerosal had been used as a preservative in multi-dose vials of vaccines. Anybody here in healthcare who's administered a vaccine, sometimes we'd have a vial and you could get 10 doses out of it and vaccinate 10 people. So they would put a preservative in it because you're going in and out of that vial and you don't want to cause bacteria to grow inside of a medium that you're injecting into people. So that preservative, in this case, you can't use salt for everything. So they use thimerosal, which is methyl mercury. It is not the same mercury that's found in other sources like mackerel and shark and tuna, the things that they tell pregnant women to avoid because of the accumulation of mercury, right? Totally different thing. It's not the same. Again, thimerosal excreted from the body in days. But because people were continuing to be in uproar about it, they decided to take it out of pediatric vaccines altogether. Took it out. So there's been no thimerosal used since 2001. So let's talk about some special populations. If you're pregnant, you should get the recommended vaccines, flu, because we talked about how that can cause premature birth. Hepatitis B, as in boy. Your tetanus shot. RSV. COVID. There's certain populations which are very much at risk. The very young, the very old, and pregnant people, and people who are immunocompromised for any reason, whether it's lupus, sickle cell, leukopenias, HIV, hypertension, diabetes. If you're immunocompromised, you should get vaccinated, and these are the special populations. What should you expect when you get a vaccine? I think we talked a little bit about this. You should expect to get some arm pain if it's in your arm, pain at the injection site. Take a Tylenol, put an ice pack on it or a heating pack, and keep it moving. Stop your whining. Fatigue, fever, body aches, maybe. I put there the varicella, a rare rash. There have been some instances in the past where people would get the chickenpox vaccine. They may have like a fleeting rash. Again, really, really rare, really rare. I've been doing this for over 40 years and I've never seen it. But because the scientific science does document it, it has happened. And again, on the side, you can see if you're having these side effects, this is what you do. Ice, heat, rest, take a fever reducer. If the symptoms get worse, then follow up with a provider. What are the vaccines that you should get as an adult? If you're here, hopefully you have one of these lovely little forms here, right? I'll read it off for the sake of those who can't see it on the video. We talked about COVID-19. Hepatitis A, you might need to get. If you're traveling to some countries where hepatitis A is a problem, the water's dirty, you might want to get the hepatitis A vaccine. Once you've had Hep A, though, you don't need it again. Hepatitis B, we talked about how serious hepatitis B is. 100 times more infectious than HIV. If somebody with Hep B bled on this table, I could clean it. I'll come back a week later, those microbes are still going to be there. It is a virulent, nasty virus. Haemophilus influenza type B, maybe, probably for your pediatric population. HPV, I read something today from the Journal of American Medical Association pediatric version that because they've been given Gardasil, the human papillomavirus vaccine, they studied cases from 2006 to 2023, and there's been a 98% decrease in the diagnosis of cervical cancer because they've been giving HPV. And by the way, give the Gardasil vaccine to your boys. This is a PG audience. I'll explain privately if you don't get the drift as to why your boys should also get the Gardasil vaccine. Okay? Influenza, we talked about that. Measles, mumps, rubella, absolutely. We've had measles outbreaks in this country because there's pockets of populations where people are not getting vaccinated. And by the way, if you haven't made the conclusion yet, when you decrease vaccines, that illness will increase. When you increase vaccines, the illnesses decrease. So in those populations where you are not getting immunized for measles, mumps, rubella, you're going to see more measles outbreaks, which is what we're seeing now. We've had 16 measles deaths. We have not had that many measles deaths for 30 years. Meningitis B. Meningitis is something that we give to our troops, our college students, because they're in close quarters, and again, those droplets are very infectious. Min A also. Mpox, very special nuanced population, typically gay men. But if you're around somebody who has it, it could put you at risk too. So it just depends on the circumstance. Pneumococcal virus can cause pneumonia, and there's different variants of it. Now, depending upon, now some of the indications for the pneumococcal virus are for those over 50, because of the complications from pneumonia can kill you, cause that the upper respiratory issues. Pneumonia is no joke. If you've ever had pneumonia or walking pneumonia, you don't feel well at all. And again, you can get pneumonia from complications of any upper respiratory infection, but particularly the flu and or COVID. And you can die as a result of it. Respiratory syncytial virus, RSV. There have been 2 times in my career when I've seen high times of RSV. I was working at CHOP in 2008, and those babies were dropping. Oh, it was so sad. Coming in and out of the ICUs, intubated. So that's why we've learned from experience that when we see explosions of RSV, that we need to prevent the deaths that are unnecessary as a result of it. So pregnant women should get it, and you should make sure that your elders get it. I had a woman come into my office sometime last year, and she came in like this. I said, oh my gosh, I don't go in the room raw. I got my mask on. And I said, what's happening? She said, well, my grandchildren, all my grandchildren have had RSV and COVID. I said, oh, okay. I swabbed her throat, swabbed her nose, checked her for RSV positive, flu positive, COVID positive. 65 years old. She's sitting in my chair like a dish rag. I said, ma'am, you're positive for all three of these things. I said, have you gotten any of your vaccines? Oh, no. I wouldn't get a vaccine. I said, well, I bet you will now. She never came back. She didn't like my sassy attitude. See, I thought that, but I didn't say it. He said it. I'm going to pray for you. Tetanus, diphtheria, and pertussis. Tetanus can be found in the soil, not just stepping on a rusty nail. Your kid's playing in the dirt, you get in a car accident, you're a mechanic or carpenter. Tetanus shots are once every 10 years. Diphtheria, we don't see much in this country, but there are occasions where we do have outbreaks of it in some mountainy backwoods areas. Pertussis, in case you don't know, is the whooping cough. I had 2 patients last year who had whooping cough. And if babies get the whooping cough, they just don't have, their little lungs are only about this big. So they don't have the respiratory reserve to survive the rigors of coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing. And it sounds like a whoop. Okay. I think I have to wrap it up. I don't know if that clock is right. But at any rate, varicella, which is chicken pox, and shingles. Anybody in here has ever had chicken pox? That means that you have the chicken pox somewhere in your nerve, the varicella virus somewhere in your nerve endings, and it could resurrect and cause you shingles. Anyone in here ever had the shingles? It's not nice. And depending upon where the outbreak is, I had a patient come to me, a few of my patients actually, but one in particular, I was swabbing him for COVID, and I looked on his face. I said, what's that around your eye? He said, oh, it's just a rash. I said, no. When we're done here, come see me upstairs. And I examined him. He had shingles on his eye, right around his face. I immediately sent him to Will's eye because that virus could have affected his optic nerve and he would have lost his sight. So these things are not to be trifled with, okay? These are the pediatric schedules for vaccines. Pretty much the same as what we've gone over with the adults, with the exception of some more nuanced ones that are specific for children, because children, again, the very young and the very old do not have, let me tell you about children. Children have not had the experience of developing an immune system other than what they've been exposed to from their parent. If their parents never been vaccinated, they don't have the opportunity to develop those antibodies to fight off a virus, right? This is science. This isn't, ooh, I'm spooky, I'm not giving that. No, come out of that, y'all. Please stop. The Lord has not given you the spirit of fear, but what? A sound mind. Stop. And I'm not getting paid by some pharmaceutical company, in case y'all want to know. But I am the senior clinical director, and I am the director of infectious disease, and the Lord has allowed me to see much over the 40 plus years that I've been practicing, and I would not come before you unless I've seen it. My people perish for a lack of knowledge. Just because it's something you don't understand or your people don't do, my family's never done that, open your mind and consider the risks versus the benefits. And if you don't, then instead of getting into your Lexus, take your horse and buggy back home. I'm sorry, Deke, I did it again. So what do we need to be worried about? We need to be worried about some of the background of some of the voices of people who are saying, don't get it. What is their motivation? What are they selling you? I'm telling you what I've seen on TV. The people who are saying, don't buy it. At the same time, they're selling you a COVID kit. Get it now before the government makes you stop getting it. I promise you that's what I heard them say. And guess what's in that kit, y'all? Ivermectin, antibiotics. I don't know which antibiotics. Maybe ones you're allergic to or not. I don't know which one they're giving. They didn't say. Plus some other things. They're stoking fear instead of facts. Do you take advice on your health care from your mechanic? I don't think my hairdresser can give me legal advice. She may know a little something, something. So here's some reliable information sites. Take a picture of it. I love Voices for Vaccines because it goes over some of the things that people experience. These are lay people whose family members died from somebody else being around them who wasn't vaccinated for whatever else. And then they break down the science and they talk about the myths. They are boots on the ground. The Mayo Clinic, and I tried to use objective sites. The World Health Organization, wonderful site. Infectious Disease Society of America, love them. Vaccine Education Center right here in the city of Philadelphia, Children's Hospital. They will break down the ingredients that are in some vaccines. They will take information to the 10th. Some of our other reliable sites that I have used in the past are no longer at my disposal, or they have been changed by people who are in seats who are not necessarily clinicians, but they are investors. And I'm not lying to you. The director of the CDC is an investor, not a clinician. So in summary, vaccine science is science. Check the sources. What are they selling you? Look at the data closely. Is it a peer-reviewed journal? Is it science? Or is it hyperbola? Vaccines have eliminated deadly and harmful diseases, and it's mitigated the effects of others. COVID vaccine was not intended to keep you from getting COVID. It was intended to keep you from dying if you got COVID. When vaccine rates drop, infections rise. That's science. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen.
Yeah, my question is, what causes autoimmune disease, and with a vaccine, how would it affect the body if you had autoimmune disease?
Which autoimmune disease?
I don't even know how many autoimmune diseases there are, but there was just maybe one.
Right. So his question was, do vaccines prevent autoimmune diseases?
And what is autoimmune?
And what are autoimmune diseases? Autoimmune diseases is when your immune system, instead of it protecting you from agents that could harm your body, it attacks you instead, attacks the good things about you. We don't know what triggers certain autoimmune diseases. We're still learning about autoimmune diseases such as lupus, one big one, right? We're still learning about many of them. But because those persons are immunocompromised as a result of them having an autoimmune disease, I put them at the front of the line at that special population of people to vaccinate them against things that could harm them further because they don't have the defense capacity. But that's a great question. Yes?
When is the best time to take the flu shot, and how long does the flu shot last?
She is my plant.
We like that.
She's not my plant, but the truth is, a great question. So flu season, despite what advertisements you see in August wanting to give you a flu shot because they'll be the first ones to sell it to you basically, flu season usually starts around this time of year, October-ish, end of October, and it will kind of trail off depending upon what's happening in the environment, like around March, right? So it's good to get your flu shot. I don't like to give it sooner than around this time because I want it to last at the height, the peak of the flu season, which would be January, February. I will still give flu shots March and April. I've done it in April because you have to think about this. Viruses in this global warming setting, viruses are living organisms that are trying to survive. They don't care who you are. They don't care I'm wearing this cute little pink jacket. They just need a host so that they can replicate and survive. But that's a great question. Thank you.
I'm an advocate for vaccines, but I have to get them because I have respiratory problems. Now, I had gotten pneumonia, and the doctor has said if I didn't have my vaccine, my pneumonia vaccine, I would have died.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I don't know if anybody heard her. She said that she has upper respiratory health issues, and her doctor wanted her to get the pneumonia vaccine. And if she had gotten pneumonia, you would have died.
I did get pneumonia.
She did get pneumonia.
And he said if I didn't have that vaccine, I would have died.
And she did get pneumonia, and if she had not had it, she would have died. And because you still got sick.
Yes.
And so that's a key thing that I said before. Some of the vaccines aren't meant to keep you from getting it. It's meant to keep you from dying once you encounter it. Because what it does, the vaccine will prevent the antigen, the germ, from replicating, reproducing, and outnumbering your body's capacity to fight them. Right? So it's a fight against how many. It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game at that point.
Good evening. I wanted to talk about the COVID vaccine. I believe in vaccines. And since COVID came out, I had got my vaccine every year. But every year, I had to plan it because I'd be in bed for 3 days sick from it. Now, I had COVID prior to that. Now, was it as bad as getting the vaccine? No. But those 3 days in bed led me to 1 year not getting it. And so my allergist said, Bernice, you really need to get it this year. He said, why don't you switch over from Moderna, try the Novavax COVID vaccine. I did, no problems whatsoever. So discuss this with your doctors, allergists, or whomever you see.
Right. Thank you for that. Did y'all? I hope everyone heard what she said. She switched over from the Moderna to the Novavax. They are different vaccines.
No mRNA.
Right. It's not the mRNA vaccine. Is it effective to protect you from COVID? Yes, it is. There is a higher percentage of protection from the mRNAs versus the viral vector vaccines. The viral vector vaccine effectiveness is somewhere between 65–70%, whereas the mRNAs have very high efficiency rates. Yes.
I went to Desert Storm, and when I went to Desert, before we deployed, they made us take a vaccine in the buttocks, and it was followed with a pack of pills that looked like birth control pills that they checked every day to see if you took these pills. This has definitely put a fear of vaccinations in my spirit. I am dead set against vaccinations for myself. However, I ensure that my son is vaccinated, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So, all these vaccines, I'll take a flu shot, but everything else, I had COVID twice like everybody else, vaccinated and not vaccinated. But God, but I just had this phobia with vaccinations because of that.
Yeah. I hope everyone heard what she said. She was traumatized basically with how they did it. You probably didn't even know which vaccine they gave you.
And they refused to tell us what it was.
Wow. Refused to tell them what it was. So the likelihood is that you probably got, you said Desert Storm you went to?
Yes.
So I do know that the military is going to give meningitis, probably even before you get there. Desert Storms, what, in the Middle East?
Yes. Saudi Arabia.
It could have been, it could have been
They said
anything.
camels, because of camels or
Camels.
diseases that they carry. I'm not sure.
Diseases that they
That
carry.
was just their
Hmm. Right, that's what was said. You know what? I'm not even going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. I don't know what they gave you,
right.
but it sounds traumatizing. So yeah, that would make me leery of vaccines too, especially when they don't tell you, because at the root cause of what we discussed earlier was what? A sense of distrust.
That's right.
We cannot minimize the reason why people don't get vaccines is because we don't trust the source from which we're being told we need them. We don't trust the source, especially in our community. But I can tell you, I developed the vaccine program. I developed the testing site program where I practice, and I also did my CEO asked me, she said, Myra, can you set up our vaccine clinic? I said, yes, ma'am. So I did that. When I set up that clinic for the vaccines, people were lined up around the corner of the building, 100 at a time. Many of them were us, but not most. The African American community does not trust the healthcare system. I fault healthcare providers for that. Because when you walk in the room, they're going to be like, hey, Mabel, what you need? Da-da-da-da. Okay, thank you very much. Bye, Mabel. We need to spend time having a conversation with our people. We need to spend time answering questions. I should not talk to you in a way that presumes that you don't understand what I'm saying. And if you don't understand what I'm saying, you're paying me to explain it in a way that you do understand. That's my job. And if your provider doesn't do that, then maybe you need to find another provider or hold your provider accountable. Because I'm pretty sure, I don't know what your copays are, but my copays are pretty steep. My husband gets on my case. He's like, why don't you tell him what you do? I'm like, I shouldn't tell him what I do for a living.
That's right.
It shouldn't matter. If I'm sitting on this side of the table, you should treat me with the same respect, whether you know I'm your colleague or not. And the fact that you don't, baby, you just played your hand. I'm done with you. I'm sorry. Deke. All right, we got to stop. The time. We can talk afterwards. Can we close in prayer? All right, thank you, Lord, so much for this opportunity. Father, I pray that this message hits home for those who may have been sitting on the fence about getting more information about being immunized and protected. Father, I pray that if I offended, that they will accept my forgiveness. I am praying, Lord, that you bring healing on your people and let there be light in the darkness, enlighten our minds. And Lord, I just thank you for all that you've done in this setting. In Christ's sake we pray, amen.